Hey everybody, welcome back to the Toybox after a 6-month plus hiatus. I'm your host Andrew M, and I decided to get back to looking at some figures from my collection and other pieces. And today I'm going to be taking a look at the 2009 version 15 Zartan from G.I. Joe Real American Hero. Zartan, of course, is a villain. Works for Cobra. He is their master of disguise. He is an infiltrator beyond reproach. He can infiltrate anybody. He can impersonate anybody. That's sort of his MO, which is why he isn't decked out in a ton of different glitzy weapons or anything like that. This particular version was released about 25 years after the original. The original came out in '84. This is a 2009. This is actually a repaint of a 2008 figure of Zartan. There are some flaws with this one as compared to some of the others. This figure was released as part of a multi-pack. It was like a Cobra high-ranking pack. It included Cobra Commander, the Baroness, Firefly, Storm Shadow, some high-ranking Cobra characters, and they put them all in one 5-pack. I believe it was only available online. I don't remember picking this one up in the stores. I did get it when it was new, so I have had Zartan for the 10 years he's been out. Welcome to 2019. I can't believe this is officially considered a 10-year-old figure. This is the very first time that I've looked at what I call a third-generation G.I. Joe on my channel. So I'm going to run down some of the articulation. I'm going to start by taking Zartan's weapons and whatnot off. We'll get back to those in a minute. But, as you can see, going from the top down, his head is on a ball joint, although this particular figure, the hood is a glued-on piece and it restricts the movement a bit, but it goes left to right, up and down with no problem. He has ball-jointed shoulders, so it can reach all the way out. He's got bend at the elbow and, in fact, a nice swivel at the elbow as well. He's got swiveled wrists. It's on both hands. As with most third-generation G.I. Joes, the torso is in 2 pieces. And the chest armor on this figure makes it very difficult to see and actually inhibits it quite a bit. But he does have an there you go. Once you take the figure and you can move his upper torso separate from the lower, that's what we call an ab crunch. You can get him into an almost decent sitting pose. It's a little hard because his legs aren't quite built. You have to use the torso crunch in combination with the knees and whatnot to really get him into a flat sitting pose. Legs go out. You can get him into a great, if you wanted to ride a motorcycle or something. Great pose there. He's got double jointed knees, which helps. You can really see that he can do, like, some big kicks or things like that. He also has, this is cool, swivel and then pivoting ankles, so he can really pose in any way you want him to in terms of like standing or running or whatnot. Third generation Joes, and I say third generation because there were 3 different major articulation types that they did. Third generation Joes are by far the most posable, easiest to move. Zartan here has a couple of design choices that prevent full movement as compared to other figures. But it's good to highlight that sometimes looking cool does come at a cost. Going on to paint applications, the paint applications on this one are actually something I have a problem with. Not because the choices are poor, they're very appropriate for the character of Zartan. But as an example, when you look, I know this is kind of a weird one to show, you can see in his crotch area they haven't painted in the brown, the reddish brown for his pants all the way, so it's flesh colored. It's like that. I don't even know how you'd represent that in real life. I don't think that can be a real thing. But it's very distracting. Another thing is that they made the shoulder pieces, the actual anchor to the torso is black, so that when you look at the under, it looks like he's got, like, either he put on some really gnarly deodorant or he hasn't shaved his underarms in about 15 years. So I didn't really care for that. Now the armor piece, which has got this funky pink shading, that's actually a removable piece. I can take that off. It does come off. I don't want to because it's really troublesome to get back on. It also doesn't interfere with the backpack hole, which is important. We're going to get to that in just a second. So at least it was designed to let him use all the stuff that he's got. Now, about the mold of this figure, I like it. It's extremely accurate to the original take, which we're actually going to look at in a second. And it's very sharp. All the pieces make sense for Zartan and what we know. The original figure, these thigh pads were removable bits. They're molded on this figure. They're molded and painted to show. I like that better, actually. It's less small pieces to lose. And you don't have to worry about them coming off mid-battle, which was an issue with the original. The torso piece is, of course, it's still removable, but it's much more snug, and it wraps around the entire upper body of the figure. The original, only the front piece would come off, and it looked really weird when you had him there, just sort of bare-chested. In terms of weapons, they move into the sculpt, so I'm going to talk about, he's got this tiny, tiny little knife. It fits on the scabbard on his right leg. It fits in there very snug. You actually heard me earlier in the video. I had to grunt a bit to get that out. So it doesn't fall out on its own. It's not a problem. He comes with this small pistol, which is actually the exact same pistol he came with in 1984. So that's a nice touch. I'm glad that they included that. I'm going to put that, actually, his left hand is posed with a trigger finger, so I'm going to give him that. And he comes with this backpack. Now, this backpack fits on that hole in his back I was talking about a minute ago, and it opens, and it reveals that there's two little masks inside. There's a mask for Storm Shadow, and there's a mask for Duke. Storm Shadow, of course, being a fellow Cobra, and Duke being one of the head members of G.I. Joe, his arch nemesis. Now, I don't think that this is intended to be like a real disguise for him. I'm going to try and put the mask on his face, and it's not going to fit. It's not going to fit. Oh, it kind of fits. There you go. But I believe that's Duke about as much as I believe that that's, Justin Trudeau. Obviously, Duke would never dress like that. I think it's just meant to be representative of the fact that, this guy can look like Duke, sound like Duke, act like Duke. He's a masterclass. In terms of character, Zartan is described as having severe mental illnesses, actually, which is funny compared to the line of work that I'm in these days. That he has paranoid schizophrenia, possibly dissociative identity disorder, and that his original identity has now been submerged to a point where he can no longer recall it because he's taken on so many different other identities and impersonated so many people over the years. So he's really gone off the deep end as a result of his work for Cobra, infiltrating and impersonating so many people over time. Zartan is definitely not a character to be trusted, and I remember when I was younger, I always wanted to have a Zartan figure, the original one, because I thought it looked just awesome. He was heavily featured in the cartoon. In fact, he was originally on the back of the packages. It was mentioned he was another figure that was available if you looked in the stores, but he wasn't. That was an error. Zartan came with a vehicle back in the day, so if you didn't look in the big boxes of vehicles, of tanks and planes and whatnot, you'd never find him. So I never did. I had to pick mine up a long time later. But talking about this guy, obviously got him first try, no problem. Now, as I said before, I'm going to show you kind of the evolution of Zartan. And I have to move the camera for this because this is a very low-budget channel. And that was me. As you can see, Zartan has had a lot of changes over the years. This is every Zartan figure that I own. From the original 84 all the way through to the most recent one, which is that one on the very end, which is a 2010. As you can see, the figure that was in today's spotlight is a repaint of that second one from the right in the back row, which is the perfect Zartan, honestly. Other than the 84, he's definitely my favorite and the most iconic. So that's my look at 2009 Zartan. Here he is on the floor, resting, lazy bum. Hopefully I'll have a chance to use a better camera setup in future, first of all. Today's been definitely challenging, but I really wanted to make myself put a video out there. So until next time, everybody, I'll see you out there in Toyland.